being here, making the effort to get out and to be with us. I confess I've always been somewhat of a construction junkie. I love to watch things being built. I can remember as a boy, I was 8 years old, and they were expanding the subdivision where we lived up the road, and what started out just a grassy knoll. They brought in dump trucks and bulldozers and loaders, and I would go every day after school, and I would stand on the bank and watch them as they dug out the roads, the road bed and all of that. And one day I remember one of the guys in the dump truck says, "Hey, you want to ride?" It was only maybe a half mile to the other end. They were moving dirt to a low section. But I thought that was awesome to be able to ride in that dump truck. And then later in high school, I was a carpenter's helper in Atlanta. It was amazing to watch those high-rise apartments go up. And, about all I did was haul concrete and go fetch boards and things like that. I didn't really do a lot of the building, but it was neat to be a part of that. And there have been a lot of fabulous construction. If you've ever seen the Mackinac Bridge up in Michigan, that thing is an engineering marvel. It's a construction marvel. How they got that bridge up there. In fact, it's supposedly the largest expansion bridge of its type in the world. But it's amazing how they did that. The St. Louis Arch, if you ever go see the St. Louis Arch, you wonder how they did it. And they actually started with two pieces and met in the middle. And there's a video you can watch. Well, when they got to the top, they were 36 inches apart trying to get those things together. But I'm not going to go into that. But there have been some amazing things built. Think about the pyramids. Years ago, I had the opportunity to visit Egypt, and I was able to stand at the base of the pyramids, and they're even greater in person than they are in the pictures. I would love to have been in Egypt to watch those things being built, and I've often wondered, did the people who lived there realize what was being done, or was it just, man, I'll be glad when they're done. This dust is terrible, and the traffic, the congestion. But day by day, those massive structures went up, and they've been standing now for thousands of years. And they were built without the aids of all of the heavy equipment and the engineering tools that we have today. You say, well, what can that possibly have to do with devotional material? As much as I enjoy watching buildings being built, as much as I enjoy seeing these engineering marvels, I would suggest to you that as members of the church, we are involved in a far greater building project. You see, the pyramids are crumbling. Literally, they are washing away with the sun and the wind and the erosion that goes on. And in fact, there's talk of one of the pyramids building a shelter over it because it is on the verge of just collapsing. But you see, what we are building will not collapse. What we are building will last for all eternity. And I'm talking about the church. You see, every time we teach someone the gospel, every time we sow the seed in good and honest hearts, and that person, that man or that woman responds to the invitation and they're baptized into Christ, they become a part of the kingdom, they become a part of the church, and as such, we've built something that the weather won't destroy. We've built something that cannot be taken away from them. Now, yes, they can voluntarily walk away and give it up, but no one can take it from them. Satan can't destroy it. And so you see the importance of what we're doing. While railroads and monuments and bridges and buildings and things of that nature are important, they're good, at the same time, they're not going to last. Maybe a few hundred years, or like the pyramids, a few thousand years. But eventually, if the world stands, all of these things are going to crumble. They're going to be destroyed. And what will be left? Memories, pictures, drawings and paintings of these structures. But you see, the work that we are building, the construction that we are doing in the hearts and the lives of men and women around the world will live on through eternity. And that's truly a beautiful thought. The idea that that person that you teach, whether it's your child, your grandchild, a coworker, a neighbor, that you are preparing them for eternal life. To me, the thought of this should serve as a stimulus to get us out there to teach, to preach, to try to bring in the flock. Let me encourage you as you go through the rest of the week, look for opportunities, if nothing else, Take some tracts on the church, on salvation, on Christ. And you were talking to someone, say, by the way, and read the tract first yourself. I've made this comment many times. You can't get people to read something that you've not first read yourself. But take a tract and read and offer it to a coworker or someone. Say, hey, I read this and I thought you might enjoy reading it. Let me know what you think about it when you read it. Just a few weeks ago, I met a young couple, and we were talking, and it was obvious they were religious. In fact, they were at the Fort Hill Gala. Come to find out they belonged to a denominational church. And so when I got back, I mailed them a copy of Muscle and a Shovel with a note inside. Said, hey, I read this book. I thought it was awesome. And I want you to have a copy, and I'd be curious to know what you think about it. Well, about 10 days ago, they were over at the house for a visit, and they said, hey, we've been reading that book you sent, and it's really good. I don't know what will come out of it. But at least the seed has been planted. The opportunity is there for them to learn the truth. And if they have questions, I've told them be glad to talk to them. But let's look for opportunities to evangelize. Let's look for people that we can invite to services, to study with, to bring to Christ. But we're going to close this devotional period by extending the invitation of Christ as we always do. If you're not a Christian, you're not going to be able to reach others. If you've not obeyed, you can't expect others to obey. And so the first step is to obey the gospel if you haven't already done so. But if perhaps as a Christian you've fallen away, you've been unfaithful, you have the opportunity to make that right, to come back, to begin anew, recommit your life to living as Christ would have you to live. If you need to respond to the invitation tonight to either become a child of God or perhaps to be restored, you have the opportunity to do that. Will you come while we sing?